A little over 10 years ago, Miami Heat fans were really excited about the formation of a Big Three down there in South Beach, where Buckeye fans should be as excited, if not more excited, than Heat fans were back then, because the Buckeyes defense has a Big Three of their own of JT Tuimoloau, Lathan Ransom, and Tommy Eichenberg.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes for the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Wednesday, August 16th in the year 2023, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. During today's episode, we will make some stat predictions and maybe some bold predictions about the Buckeyes defense in 2023. But first, about 10 years ago, I remember the offseason when LeBron James made the decision. It was on TV, and he let the world know he would be taking his talents to South Beach. Dwayne Wade was there, and Chris Bosh would be joining that duo. And the next thing we knew, the Heat went to 4 straight NBA Finals, won back-to-back in the middle of that run, and that Big Three was fun to watch play the basketball. They also did a little tormenting of me as I got annoyed because Paul George and the Pacers could not get past the Heat during that sequence for the Miami Heat. That was annoying at times, but it was fun to watch LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh play the basketball. It's also going to be fun to watch the three-headed monster or Ohio State's own Big Three of JT Tuimoloau, Tommy Eichenberg, and Lathan Ransom bust heads all season long. Now, I could have gone a Big Three instead for the offense as a whole, but how many teams in America, forget the Big Ten, let's go big picture. That's where we're trying to go, and that's win a national championship. How many teams in the country have a guy at defensive end that can be a top 15, top 20 pick, probably no worse than a first-round pick in next year's NFL draft? How many guys have that? How many guys have that linebacker, a guy who a year ago had 120 tackles, had 12 tackles for loss, and is a guy that when he plays out of his mind and plays elite football, is somebody that the Buckeyes will be looking at to say, if Eichenberg is great, if Eichenberg is elite, this defense can be elite as well. And then you have a guy in the back half of the defense in Lathan Ransom, a guy who, after his the 2021 campaign, broke his leg, came back a year ago, and what did this young man do? He played phenomenal football for the Buckeyes in 2022. Ransom a year ago, 74 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, and 1 interception. Now, the numbers only tell you a portion about how good these guys are. Eichenberg roams the defense, the middle of the defense, and is a force and one of the best linebackers in the country. JT Tuimoloau, I do believe that him in this upcoming season, you're going to see a little bit more of his athleticism. He's going to tap into that. Maybe not in the ways that we saw in high school. College is faster. Guys are stronger. Guys are bigger. It might just be that he was athletic in that way in high school. That won't be the same level of display of athleticism in college. But also, for Ransom, you have a guy at every single unit of every level of the defense that's going to bust heads in this Big Three unit as Ohio State's defense strives to be better and be a better overall unit in the upcoming season. These three guys are going to be very, very important if the Buckeyes defense wants to accomplish all of their goals. Think about, for you, when you think about the Cleveland Browns or Cincinnati Bengals, or maybe you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, or you're a Miami Dolphins fan, or hopefully you're not a New England Patriots fan. Whatever you are, whatever your fandom is or your fandom lies, a Big Three, you might just be talking about on offense. You might simply just look at guys on the offensive side of the ball. Because I remember growing up, Colts fan. Peyton Manning, Edgerrin James, Marvin Harrison. That was the Big Three. That was the three-headed monster, and people really had no way to stop it. outside of Bill Belichick, which is why I really don't like the New England Patriots or Bill Belichick. You go on the Colts defense. Yes, they had Dwight Freeney. They didn't have an elite linebacker. Gary Brackett wasn't elite. They had Bob Sanders back, but nobody in that linebacker room for the Colts back then when I was growing up was elite, and so elite that it would form up a big three on that unit. Think about a year ago for the Buckeyes. Would you have said that Tuimoloau, Eichenberg, and Ransom were an elite big three? I don't think you would say elite. I think you could say that there'd be better plays that'd be needed, but I don't think you'd be saying those three guys were elite at that level. I'm expecting elite play from all of these guys this year. Consistent elite play from everybody. You got spurts. Tuimoloau needs to be more consistent. Eichenberg, you would love for him to be more athletic, but if not, he is still going to be one of the best linebackers in the country. And Ransom, a full off season. Ransom, another year under Jim Knowles, being coached by Pierre Eliano, a guy that I do believe in the upcoming season. Not even talking about numerically and statistically, but just as a leader for the Buckeyes, you could find him play all three safety positions and also find them being a leader that the Buckeyes defense needs, as you're probably going to have a newcomer in Jahad Carter on the defense and probably a youngster in Sonny Styles on the field as well. We all talk about the big three on offense, but this big three on defense is needed for the Buckeyes this year, because we're going to talk more about my thoughts and share some more about some tweaks that I think the Buckeyes defense needs to make. But if they don't, they're solid. Literally solid at every level of the defense. Now, I could have maybe gone pick 3 for Michael Hall Jr. or Tyleik Williams, but I can't, because both of those guys didn't play enough a year ago for them to be in this conversation right now. What made the Miami Heat big 3 so big? You had guys, LeBron already been to the finals. You had Dwayne Wade already, I believe he was the finals MVP. Chris Bosh, an Olympian. These guys were all-stars, Olympians, all-NBA guys, and they all found their way down to South Beach. Because of what they did prior, it made what they were going to do even more special, or even more of a wonder or a mystery in numerous people's minds. Think about that conversation in regards to this big 3. We have already seen Tuimoloau, Eichenberg, and Ransom do big things. Eichenberg a year ago, 120 tackles, led the team in tackles for loss with 12. That's insane. Lathan Ransom, third on the team in tackles a year ago, only played in 12 of the 13 Buckeye games. 74 tackles last year, looking to probably maybe get closer to that 80 mark. The Tuimoloau, 10.5 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. Numbers need to get better, but we're all speculating and have a mystery about and a wonder about what they'll do this year, because they were so good a year ago. Ohio State's big 3 is going to be needed, not just for the defense to accomplish all of their goals, but if the Buckeyes want to accomplish all of their goals as a team, beat the team up north, win the conference, and win the Natty, the Buckeyes' big 3 on defense needs to be elite week in and week out. A week ago, we went over some stat predictions for the Buckeyes offense, and today it's all about the Buckeyes defense. Where do I think, or who do I think will lead the team in interceptions or sacks or tackles for loss? We tackle that topic next on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to you by Nutrafol. You don't have to choose between better hair growth and your health. Nutrafol provides a whole body health approach for men that promotes healthier hair. No drugs, no compromises, just better hair. Nutrafol is a #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician-formulated, natural, science-backed ingredients. Their drug-free, patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering your listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men. spelled Nutrafol.com/men, and enter promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code LOCKEDONCollege. We love prediction season. We love hearing about the different thoughts that maybe a host or our friends have about a Buckeyes offense or defense or team overall going into the upcoming season. And when I put this list together, there were a lot more statistical categories we touched on a week ago. But when I thought about this as a whole, this unit, this team, a lot of these I think are an easy check the box yes. Some of them are no. Now, I am not going to go and do the over under 4250 on the passing yards for Ohio State starting quarterback in the fall. I'm not going to do that, or over under 1450 on the rushing yards. I'm not going to do that this week. One thing I will do is just simply predict leading tackle guy, leader in interceptions, leader in TFLs, things like that. Then later on, we'll do a yes/no segment where I will simply say 100 tackles for a guy this year, yes or no. Multiple first-round picks on defense, yes or no. Things of that nature. So for the Buckeyes defense and kind of predictions that we're going to make here today, who do I think will lead the team in tackles? Now, maybe you're going to call me crazy for this. Last year, a year ago, you had Tommy Eichenberg led the team in tackles, 120 tackles. 77 of those were solo. Second on the team in tackles was Steele Chambers with 77. 45 of those were solo. Lathan Ransom was third on the team in tackles a year ago with 74. 49 solo tackles for Ransom. And then Ronnie Hickman a season ago, 53 was the tackles he had on the season. 26 solo tackles. Nobody else after that had more than 34 tackles. That was Zach Harrison and Denzel Burke. I'm not going Eichenberg as easy, and maybe for some you would say, yeah, it's going to be Ike. I think Steele Chambers is going to tap into a level of athleticism at linebacker and a quickness and a desire, not say desire, but being able to decipher quickly before the snap where the ball's going to go. I got Steele Chambers as a guy who I think is going to lead the team in tackles. I'm also going to get to him later in the segment because him and Eichenberg make up a duo that, dude, you think I'm excited about this big three on the Buckeyes defense? Man, the excitement that I have for Chambers and Eichenberg keeps going up the closer we get to the start of the season. The leader on the team in tackles in the fall, I do believe is still Chambers. Number 2, I believe is Tommy Eichenberg. I think you want your 2 linebackers to be right there in the nick or at the top of the lead for the team in tackles. I do think Lathan Ransom is going to be third. His versatility is going to be key. Some may say Sonny Styles. I don't know exactly what. I am a kind of a wait-and-see mode with Sonny Styles. Understand 6'4", listed at 230 on the Buckeyes roster. Okay, great. I need to see a little bit more before I'm comfortable saying he is the right guy to play the nickel. I know Ransom can play all over the field, and he'll kill it when he is doing it. Leader in sacks. This one's easy to me. And it's not the guy who led the Buckeyes in sacks a season ago. There were 2 guys who tied for 4.5 sacks for the Buckeyes last season. That was Jack Sawyer and Michael Hall Jr. Some may say, where were J.T. Tuimoloau and Zach Harrison? They both had 3.5 sacks apiece. Leader for me for the Buckeyes defense in sacks, J.T. Tuimoloau. I'm kind of in a wait-and-see mode with what's his face, Jack Sawyer. Can't say what's his name because I almost said Zach Sawyer, and that would not have been correct. So I kind of tried. I just said Zach Harrison. The name was in my head. There we go. But I do believe, though, we're finding that if everything I keep hearing from practice is, of course, the media's only been there for 2 practices, but if everything they're hearing for reports of practice is that Kenyatta Jackson Jr. keeps busting heads and keeps doing things and keeps flashing during practices, you might find a scenario that Sawyer's not out there in as many passing downs as you would think. Now, also, in the very next segment, I will also, forgot to put this in my notes, we'll be predicting the Rushman package. And I do think there's a scenario where Sawyer's out there and K-Jack's out there and Tuimoloau is out there and possibly Caden Curry, possibly Michael Hall Jr. There's numerous guys that could be out there. I'll give you my 4 later on in today's show. The leader in tackles for loss. I think this one is where it's a battle. Because last year it was 12 with Tommy Eichenberg. The second for the team in tackles for loss was 10.5 with Tuimoloau. Then you had Michael Hall Jr. with 7.5. And that young man didn't play a lot of football last year. Didn't play enough. Should have played more. And so when I think about the leader in tackles for loss, there were 2 guys in my mind, but I can't leave off the third in Michael Hall Jr. The one hesitation I have with putting Michael Hall Jr. there is I don't know how much they're going to play him. I don't care if he starts. I don't care if he's the first backup off the bench. I don't care. What have we learned about Larry Johnson's D-line over the past few years? There's a rotation, and it's heavy. And a year ago, the guys that should have been on the field weren't playing enough, and it really hurt the Buckeyes' defense, especially during crucial moments during big games. That's why I'm not sure about Michael Hall Jr. because the depth there, you got Ty Hamilton, Tyleek Williams, who's still injured, has a knee brace on, and he suffered an injury a couple weeks ago, week and a half ago. So I'm assuming he's going to be ready for week 1, but I am in wait and see mode with a lot of this. I want to put Michael Hall Jr. there. I can't. My gut says Eichenberg does it back-to-back seasons, but I'm also going to go with JTT. I think it's going to go JT Tuimoloau lead the team in tackles for loss. JT Tuimoloau leads the team in sacks. Second on the team in TFLs is Eichenberg. Third on the team in TFLs in the upcoming season is Michael Hall Jr. Last but not least, in the major statistical category that we're going to discuss during this segment of the show is interceptions. Now, I am not going with the safety. I am not going Denzel Burke. I am not. There's a young man, an Ole Miss transfer, that I do believe if he does not start week 1, there will be some way for him to play every single season. Every season, every single game for the Buckeyes. That's Davison Igbinosun. He did some good stuff during his season last year at Ole Miss in the SEC. And I am a person, Big Ten fans will not like this statement. The SEC is the best college football conference in the country, year in and year out. It wasn't just the BCS era or the CFP right now. Year in, year out, the SEC is the best college football conference in the country. And that means something. Not only for Igbinosun, but also a former teammate of his in Tywone Malone. Those guys are going to bring a lot to the table that a lot of guys at that position didn't have a year ago or don't have in their bag right now. I was close to saying Jordan Hancock. I'm still kind of in a wait-and-see mode with him. How does he play when he is healthy, consistently healthy? Davison Igbinosun, I do believe, leads the team in interceptions in the upcoming season. So to recap really quickly, my prediction for leader in tackles, still Chambers. Leader in sacks, Tuimoloau. Leader in tackles for loss, JT Tuimoloau once again. Leader in interceptions for the Buckeyes in 2023, Davison Igbinosun. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know. Hit me up on Twitter at jstevens07. DMs are open there. DMs are open on the IG if you want to email me, jstevens317@gmail.com. That is not the only group of predictions we have for today's show. We have more defensive predictions for your Buckeyes in the fall coming at you next on Locked on Buckeyes. Went through a little bit in the last segment about this 4 big statistical categories for the Buckeyes defense, but I got a couple more predictions here, and then a little numerical predictions, and then another one for the Rushman package, and we'll close up shop. Will the Buckeyes have a player with 100 tackles in the season? I think that's an easy yes. A year ago, you had Tommy Eichenberg with 120, and there was a sizable gap between him and number two, and number 3, and number 4, and everybody else. Eichenberg had 120. Number 2 was Chambers with 77. Number 3 was Ransom with 74. I don't think he's going to have 120 in the upcoming season. However, keep this in mind. Stats in college, they not only include the regular season stats, but they also include your conference championship game if you play in that. They also include bowl games, and if you play in both playoff games, your statistical stats go into that as well. As I'm a person that believes the Buckeyes will make the playoff in the fall, I am not all in on them winning the national championship. That is, one, I do think they're going to be in the running to win the conference championship game. Not saying they're going to win it, can't predict that just right now, but I do believe they're going to be in the running for that. So when you think about that conversation as a whole, that's 12 regular season games. I think the leader in this category plays in all those games. Let's just assume they play in the conference championship game. Win or lose, doesn't matter. Let's just assume they play in it. That's 13 games. And let's assume they play a 14th game in the playoff, at least the semifinal round. That's one game. I do believe those 14 games, you're going to get a guy that's going to have over 100 tackles. The other thought is also going to boost the numbers of somebody else. And I do believe that Buckeyes defense is going to be more well-rounded as a whole unit, that there won't be such a sizable gap between number 1, 2, 3, and the rest of the guys that had tackles for the Buckeyes defense in the upcoming season. So yes, I do believe this conversation is still Chambers. He will have over 100 tackles in the season. I also think you're looking at a situation where Tommy Eichenberg is number 2. And if he has not eclipsed the 100 tackle mark, he is really, really, really close to making that accomplishment in this upcoming season. Will the Buckeyes defense have multiple first-round picks in 2024? And one of the reasons why we're going over this series with Ryan Roberts of Rising Draft Scouting and doing a little preseason draft talk about the Buckeyes defense, because we both reiterate over and over, there are guys that are going to be draft eligible that don't go into next year's draft, which goes into the Buckeyes defense. I think that the answer there is yes, but it's also a major projection. If Tyleik Williams and Michael Hall Jr. and Tuimoloau progress like we think they will, I believe all three will be in the running to be first-round picks next year. I'm not going to say all three will be. I think 2 of the 3 have a realistic shot to be. Tuimoloau, one that available between Michael Hall Jr. and Tyleik Williams to be the other person that's a first-round pick for the Buckeyes defense. But also, Ransom and Burke are going to be in that conversation as well as potential first-round picks. I think 1 or 2 of those will be second-round picks, second, maybe early third round. I do think there's a good conversation that Burke may end up staying in school. Now, if he balls out, if he just goes buck wild and goes ham on the field, he's going. Like I would anticipate him going. Being a 3-year starter, having a little sophomore slump a year ago, not just with the injury, but with technique as well. I do believe that he comes back this year fully healthy, balls out, does his thing. He is going to be at worst early day 3, at worst third round pick, probably a second round pick in next year's draft. But yes, I do think there's multiple first round picks for the Buckeyes defense in the fall. And many of you have been wondering, Jay, where is your mind in regards to the Rushman package for the Buckeyes in 2023? Will it be 4 defensive ends? Will it be a combination of more pass heavy or pass rush style D tackles and a couple of defensive ends that maybe come off the bench, or maybe it's a starter and a backup defensive end? Where is your mind? And the 4 that I have here, this is a variation where these guys I'm not saying this guy in this package is going to be inside and this guy's going to be outside. I am not saying that. I think all 4 guys here, except for maybe 1, could be interchangeable inside or outside, but really all 4 of them can be interchangeable. On the outside in this Rushman package prediction, or the guys that are going to be out there in obvious pass rushing situations for the Buckeyes defense, I got Tuimoloau on one side, Kenyatta Jackson Jr. on the other as defensive ends. Probably Tuimoloau on the strong side, and you're going to have K-Jack on the weak side. Here's where things get interesting, because some people's initial thought is Sawyer and Caden Curry. I am not going there. I'm not going there at all. Remember, the Rushman package in my mind, it's a prediction, but also it's something that I wish was actually going to happen. Part of the prediction in this is not going to happen, but just my own analysis. On the inside, in the interior, at the D tackle spots, Jack Sawyer, Michael Hall Jr. Now, the thought that I want to happen that I don't think will happen is that during obvious passing downs, pass rush situations, you don't let the O-line know when you bring those 4 guys in where they're going to line up. Because I do think there is a scenario that occasionally, I wouldn't say this all the time, you could have Tuimoloau on the inside and Michael Hall Jr. on the outside. Now, here's a tricky thing. Michael Hall Jr. does not bring the speed that Tuimoloau or Sawyer or K-Jack brings, but he does bring a quickness of his feet and his hands. What does Tuimoloau bring on the interior? A quickness of his feet and his hands and his body and an athleticism that an interior defensive tackle does not bring. So here's my thought about the Rushman package, which I would love to actually happen, but part of me doesn't think it's going to. I would love for that to be the grouping. K-Jack, Kenyatta Jackson Jr., Jack Sawyer, Michael Hall Jr., and JT Tuimoloau, but have multiple variations of that. Because if you have multiple variations of guys that are obvious leaders in the clubhouse to be top pass rushers for the Buckeyes in the fall, and one of them is Michael Hall Jr., who I rant and rave and love seeing how quick he is, not just splitting double teams, but quick feet, quick hands, quick reactions, quick counters, quick off the line, quick everything. Just a quick guy. Man, whoo. Talk about Penn State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Notre Dame, and obvious passing situations. It's going to be time to go night-night because the quarterback is not going to know what hit him when this Rushman package is coming after him all night long. Out of here on, a Wednesday, a hump day edition of Here on Locked On Buckeyes. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. Send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every single day. For your second listen of the day, make sure you check out that symbol of the show that's in the bottom corner of this graphic on the YouTube, the Locked On Sports Today podcast. Locked On Sports Today provides you with everything you need to know going on in and around the world of sports in 20 minutes every single day. Locked On Buckeyes and the Locked On Sports Today podcast, they are both a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This has been Locked On Buckeyes here on a hump day. I'll see you next time.